standing there too. So it says here, I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar which is before God, saying, the sixth angel which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. So now, the angels that are bound are usually demons. They're not normally regular angels. So whoever these angels are probably just as bad as the angels that we've already read about. Horrible, horrible beings. They're demons, more than likely, and they're getting ready to do something. So verse 15 says, and the four angels were loosed, which will prepare for an hour and a day and a month and a year to slay the third part of men. Now remember, all of God's creation is, and it looks like we went to the second video here. It says all of God's creation is used for his purpose and his glory, which is really, really quite interesting. These demons or angels here were created for this particular time, to slay a third of mankind. And remember, with the fourth seal, they had already slew a fourth of creation. Now you say if you had like 100%, a quarter is already slayed. So now you have 75%, and now you're slaying a third of the 75% that's still left. So, you're slaying a good amount of people now. It's a terrible time. So now you have bodies all over the place. You have animals all over the place. You have bodies from the seals and bodies now from the trumpets. You have, from the other judgments and so forth. So you have a lot of death. You have a lot of killings. You have, it doesn't say that the moon, stars, and sun have regained their light. You don't know what's going on there. So if they didn't regain their light, you still probably don't have the heat. So now the earth is probably much colder than it was before. So what are you doing now? Are the crops growing? Because if you have cold earth, nothing's growing in that. The water is polluted. The air is bad. Now you have all of this smoke and stuff coming from a pit that was loosed. Who knows what's going on? I mean, this is horrible, horrible times. And I'm sure there has to be a stench in the air from all these bodies laying all over the place. Like, how can you even get rid of these bodies? Yeah, so many. I mean, you see this pandemic we have, they were bringing in refrigerated trucks just to deal with the bodies from the overflow. So how do you deal with it? How do you bury so many? Do you cremate them? Do you, bury them at sea? Like, what are you doing with all these bodies that you have? It's a horrible, horrible time. But it says here, in the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them. And it's interesting that you would have that, because normally, the Bible don't use absolute numbers like that all the time. They might say it was tens of thousands and thousand times thousands of thousands, or something along those lines, which means it's a whole lot and it's innumerable. But here, they said the number of the army of horsemen were 200,000. 200,000. And I heard the number of them. 200,000. So it was specific in the number, which is very, very, very interesting. Why the Lord would put that in there like that. Verse 17. And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire, and jacinth, and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire, and smoke, and brimstone. By these three of the third part of men killed, by fire, and by smoke, and by brimstone, which issued out of their mouths. For the power is in their mouth and in their tails, for their tails were like on the serpents, and had heads, and with them they do hurt. Now remember the locust tails, they had the sting. These are like serpents where they have the power to kill. So that's the difference between them. But, again, they have breastplates of fire where before the other one were breastplates of iron. Here, these are like devouring fires, which, you can't, there's no getting around that. The heads of the horses were heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire, smoke, and brimstone. What do you do with something along those lines? What is this? These are the chariots, not even the ones, the riders riding them. So it says here, and the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of the works of their hands, that they should worship devils and idols of gold and silver and brass and stone and of wood, which neither can see nor hear nor walk. So out of all of this, there were a lot of people, they're saying here, some did turn. Some did hear the message that was preached by those witnesses, 144,000 Jews. Some did. It says here, the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues yet repented not the works of their hands, and they didn't stop worshiping the idols. They didn't stop worshiping gold, silver, brass, stone, and wood. They can't do anything for them. And God always said that in Old Testament times. You cut down a tree. You cut down a tree. And then you took a part of that tree and made a fire to keep yourself warm. You took another part of the tree and used it for wood so that you can cook food on. And then another part of the tree, you made a god and worshiped it. And he says, just consider your way, like, what are you doing? You did these things. Part of it was used for firewood, and the other part, you created a god with your own hands, and then you bow down to it. It don't even make sense. And he's saying here, you did the same thing. You have idols of gold and silver and brass. These are just things on the earth, like stuff that grow. What are you worshiping that for? Stone and wood. He said this stuff they can't see, they can't hear, they can't walk. There's nothing they can do for you, but yet you rather worship that than the real, true, living God. What are you doing? And a lot of times, too, when you get into as it talks about the next that next verse, when you get into the sorceries and witchcraft, all that kind of stuff, whatever you start worshiping, whatever we kind of create our own things that we worship. If you're not worshiping the one true living God, the demons become that so that you ultimately worship them. So your own facade, they become a part of that facade, and then you start worshiping them instead of the true living God as well. So that's why I said here, you're worshiping devils and idols and all these other elements that can't do anything for you. They do nothing for you. It's like he said. In verse 21, neither repented of their murders, nor their sorceries, nor their fornications, nor their thefts. They still didn't repent of all the stuff that they were doing, even though it was obvious, it was right in front of their faces. And see, in this day and time, it amazes me right now how people are deliberately ignorant to what's going on. They're deliberately ignorant to the empirical evidence that they see. They set their faces against it. But here, even down to like in today's time, they call it fake news. Oh, it's fake news. Oh, they have a 10 oh buts. You see the evidence right in front of you. Oh yeah, but oh yeah, well that's just because, or oh that's this. In one conversation, they may have like 4 or 5 different excuses for one, rather than just believing the evidence and the testimony and whatever it is, the video clips and everything else. But then they're going to say, and I think it was that sixth seal, they knew it was God and they trembled and feared. It wasn't about fake news. They knew it was God, but neither did they repent. Even knowing that it was God, they said, let the rocks fall on us and hide us from him that sits on the Lamb. But they never stopped worshiping idols. They never stopped worshiping demons. They never stopped worshiping the elements of the earth. They set their face against it. Even though they knew the truth, they still refused to worship God. There's not a whole lot you can do with that level of ignorance. It's just not. What do you do with that kind of ignorance? Because God is sitting here, he's reaching out, he's pouring out his wrath, but at the same time, he's still looking for you to turn around. And they just won't do it. They won't do it. Like he said, neither did they repent. They're still killing people. And the reason why even killing people is bad is because the Lord even said when he issued his for the death penalty. That's what I was saying in the last video, when people have more regard for animals than they do for people. He said, a life I require for life. Because when man sheds blood, he said, if you have the audacity to kill another person created in the image and likeness of God, you have no respect for God either. You deserve to be wiped off the map. You deserve to die yourself. So to have more regard for created beings than for mankind and for God himself, it's a slippery slope. And that's what God is saying here. And the same thing here. This isn't fake news. It's God and you still have no regard for God. There's not much you can do with that type of willful ignorance. It's just sad. So here we will pick back up in verse 10:1. Next time here. We'll pick up at 10:1. Again, this I have now like 52, almost 53 minutes. So remember, it's 2 parts. It's a 2-part video. Some people have been asking me about like notifications and so forth. The notifications with YouTube, you can subscribe. Hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications. That will help you. Like when I post a video, it'll automatically let you know I posted a new video and you'll be notified that way. So if you can do that, hit that notification button and subscribe. It should help you out. If you have any questions, you can also put them in the comment section there. And if you like them, like them. If you don't, you can say I don't like it. Whatever you want to say. But if you have any questions, I'll answer them. Either on post, or if it's a personal question, you can just text me or email me or something along those lines. All right, so it's here is probably after 1 o'clock. I thought I was going to stop doing them these late, but hopefully everything's still good. So again, be safe, stay strong, stay healthy, and don't lose your salvation. For those that come to class, I always ask, are you still saved? Don't lose the salvation. Hold on to it and don't let it go. Until we meet again, Gethsemane, and those on the internet.